Howdy folks, I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, which is of course also the Salt Mine Discord Q&A for, what month is it? September. Yeah. So thank you and welcome to everybody who turned up on Sunday to listen to this live and also post their questions. And if you're watching this as Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, hope you all had a great weekend. Now let's crack on straight away. Not going to waste any time with the first question, which comes from Spear. He says, "Hey Jingles, hope you're doing well, and likewise to everyone else in the Discord. I hope you're having a great morning. I just want to quickly say that last month you recommended Ryan Macbeth's YouTube channel." Oh, that's right, yeah. Great suggestion. Really enjoyed his stuff on Chinese military capability. One I can definitely recommend within that same type of genre would be Perrin. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, question is actually here. Have you seen the new game announced by Microprose called Spearhead 2? I have not. Surprising, actually, if it's Microprose. I'm normally up to date with their stuff. He says it's very similar to Gunner Heat PC. Oh, right, Gunner Heat PC. And it's something... Is it something you think you'd enjoy sharing on the channel? Probably. Gunner Heat PC is a very good game. And if this is by Microprose, I know it's going to be a decent title. So, yeah, thanks for that. I'll add that one to my... keep an eye open for list. Thank you very much. Next question from Tank50US. It says, "Greetings Overlord, I hope you're doing well. It's looking like I'll be starting a new job soon." All right, that's good news. The question, with the rise of AI, oh shit, what are your thoughts on it being used in a supportive role when it comes to creative work? For example, a writer working on something sci-fi that's a bit grounded in modern naval procedures, using an AI to help dig up certain procedures, or using it to help with doing the editing. Like, for example, they wrote the story, but letting the AI pass over it like a human editor would for a fraction of the cost. That's not a bad idea, actually. I mean, you know, you can... I'm a big advocate of doing your own research, but as long as you check the research that the AI generates for you, and it's very difficult to actually try to Google something at all these days without an AI sticking its fucking nose in and trying to suggest, you know, whatever. Because, you know, obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, sometimes AI just makes shit up. So, yeah, certainly use the AI to help you with your research, but make sure you check the research. But I like the idea of having it edit, because paying an editor to check your work can actually be quite expensive. And, I mean, using an AI isn't exactly free, but it's certainly a lot cheaper than getting a human editor to do it. So, yeah, not a bad idea. Yeah, good suggestion. Oh, he says, "P.S. I reached 39 next Tuesday." Oh, no. Seriously, 40 is nothing. 39 is bad, but 40 is nothing. I think once you get... For me, I think the big... The moment when I realised I was over the hill and it was never getting any better from here on in was when I had my 26th birthday. And 30 was like, oh, shit. But after 30, it's you know, there's... It doesn't really get any worse. It's just... You know, 39, oh, you're on 40 next year. 40 is nothing. By the time you reach 40, and you probably already know this yourself, if you're being honest, 38, 39, you know, you are so far over the hill, you can't even see the crest anymore. So, 50's the next big one that you have to watch out for. Anyway, next question comes from our nation, for which we love. "Hey Jingles, now that sufficient time has passed since I offended you with a Royal Air Force question a few months back, it was recently my 24th birthday, and I thought, all your favourite or memorable birthday memories as a civilian, but also while you were serving. I'd have to say my 21st birthday. Technically, this kind of counts as both, because my 21st birthday was the 10th of March 1991. And 1991 was a fairly significant year for the Royal Navy and the Middle East and the world in general. It was the first Gulf War, which was also my first deployment on board my first ship, HMS Brazen. So I joined the ship when it was, you know, fresh out of training. I joined the ship when it was out in the Gulf, about 3 months before the war kicked off. And I was there for the duration. So I actually had my 21st birthday on the way back after the war had ended, somewhere in the middle of the Red Sea, on the way back from the Gulf to Britain. So nothing especially important actually happened on my actual 21st birthday. It was just another working day at sea. But when we got back and the ship's company all went on leave, as one of the first, us and HMS Gloucester were the first two ships back, I got home and it was late at night. Arrived in Newcastle on the train, caught a bus, because public transport up there was fantastic. Caught a bus home, and then, actually no, it was a taxi. I got a taxi home, because I remember coming around the corner of the housing estate where I lived into the cul-de-sac, and the entire street was lined with friends and neighbours, with banners and poles and flags and all kinds of shit, saying welcome home and happy birthday to the war hero. And a huge party. My mother had laid on a huge party with all of the neighbours in the street for my coming back from the First Gulf War, and also for my 21st birthday. So that's one that I am not likely to forget in a hurry. That was an amazing... It was slightly delayed. I think I got home about a week after my birthday, but it was the best birthday I ever had. Next question comes from Yalara. Ave Cesar Magnus Jingles, he says, what was your closest face-to-face encounter with a member of the royal family, even a distant relative? Oh, actually, yeah. His first thought was Lord Mountbatten as Chief of Staff during a military inspection, but he died before. He was assassinated. He and his grandchildren were assassinated by the IRA. I think I was either 10 or 11. But I met Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, on a couple of occasions. She has an honorary position of the Cowes Yacht Club, like the president of the club or something. Cowes is the biggest town on the Isle of Man. No, sorry, not the Isle of Man. That's up in the Irish Sea. The Isle of Wight, a couple of miles off the southern coast of England. A couple of miles away from where I am right now in Gosport, Portsmouth. And every year they have the Cowes Boat Show, or the Yacht Show. And she's honorary president of the Cowes Yacht Club. And so... because of the royal association with the club, the Navy provides a guard ship for the yacht show every year. And I was on HMS Newcastle, and we were assigned as the guard ship, and Princess Anne came on board. And so she spent the day of the opening ceremonies of the yacht show on board HMS Newcastle, and I met her there. But then, she's really, really nice, by the way. And then a couple of years later, they were opening, was it the Tank Museum? They were opening the new restoration workshop that they just spent a couple of million on building, where they were restoring, I think, was it a Valentine? No, Matilda. And Princess Anne officially opened the place, and they'd invited a bunch of people along. So there was myself, Chris Barry, old Rimmer from Red Dwarf, he was there. We were all introduced to Princess Anne, and again, really, really nice. So only member of the royal family I ever met. Managed to successfully avoid all of the others. Next question from Mentally Eel. It says, hi Jingles, thanks for your advice on incremental housekeeping. Oh yeah. After the last Discord Q&A ended, basically what I said was, if you see something that needs doing, like something that needs picking up and putting in a bin, or a dish that needs to be washed, or anything, and it will take you less than a minute to do it, and do it right there and then. Because if you just ignore them, this is why you end up living in a place that looks like a rubbish tip. Because you think, I'll do that later. If it takes you less than a minute to do it there and then, and you won't believe the difference it makes to your life. And he continues to say, it has genuinely changed his life. I'm really glad. Also very handy, since he'll be enlisting in the army soon. Oh yeah. Question. I recently rewatched the finale of Star Trek Voyager, where a certain someone illegally time travels to bring advanced technology for the crew. If you could bring back one unit, squadron of equipment or technology for a historical battle, what would it be and to where? No size limitations, but you only have enough logistics for that one battle. Okay, so it has to be a battle that's pivotal. Not one battle in a campaign, but a battle that basically ends a war or wins a war. Okay, I would bring M1 Garands to the Battle of Hastings. Because it would have to be something... I mean, with an M1, it's a very effective rifle. Tank 50 US will back me up on this one. An extremely effective rifle, and also very, very easy to teach somebody how to use. You can teach somebody to use an M1 in 10 minutes. And there's no... I mean, everybody says like the Kalashnikov, and there's a reason why the Kalashnikov, the AK-47 or the AK-74 is as popular as it is, because it is extremely simple to use and it's very easy to teach. But it's got it has controllability issues. If you hand somebody an AK-47 and say, okay, here you go, fully automatic rock and roll, they might hit something with their first shot, but the next 15 are probably just going to go into the air. But you give somebody an M1 semi-automatic rifle, you don't have that problem. So they're probably going to be more effective with it if they have no idea what the technology is. And the reason why I would take it to the Battle of Hastings is because that's the battle that King Harold of the Saxons lost by taking an arrow to the eye right after winning a battle against the Danes at Stamford Bridge and then having to march all the way to the other end of the country to defend against William the Conqueror. And of course he lost. So that would be it. M1 Garands at the Battle of Hastings to defeat the Normans. I'm not sure that might be a good idea, actually, because you could argue that the Norman invasion was actually very, very good for England. But that's an entirely different question, and one which we really don't have time to go into now. But that would be it. M1 Garands back to the Saxon army of King Harold at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Next one, from Yamato 2. Dear Almighty Overlord Jingles, on your many years on YouTube, you've had many legendary moments and many legendary quotes. What do you think are your most infamous moments and quotes? Ooh. Well, of course, there's always the whole World of Tanks, anything Russian with horrible accuracy fires while on the move at a target on the far side of the map and then instantly hits and one-shots it with a cold dead hand of Stalin, reaches up from the depths of hell and guides the shot to the target. I suppose that one's fairly popular. I've actually seen some of my quotes. I can't remember where I was. It was at some comic and film convention in London. And I've no idea what it was doing there, because it's the sort of thing you'd expect to see on a trader stall at Tankfest. But I saw somebody selling T-shirts at like London Comic Con, and they had one of my KV2 quotes on it. And I thought, wow, I can't remember specifically what it was. It's just a picture of a KV2 and it strong tank or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I thought, hang on, that's me. And I had a brief moment of understanding what it was like to be a comic book artist, where everybody basically rips off your work, creating memorabilia without even crediting or certainly not giving you any money for it. I mean, I don't, what are you going to do? You can't well, I suppose you could get around to copyrighting a saying or an expression, but I feel like, what's the point? If somebody's got a business selling T-shirts, I wish I could remember exactly what the quote was, but I specifically remember seeing this T-shirt amongst a whole bunch of other T-shirts on this display at some kind of like London Film and Comic Con, and thinking, first, what the hell is that doing here? Because it's got nothing whatsoever to do with the rest of the convention, and also, that was me. But I mean, the margins on selling T-shirts are pretty small, and if the guy's making a living, I don't care. More power to him. But as for infamous moments, I think the one that leaps to mind, and it's to do with Rita Gamer, and she was in, I can't specifically remember the name, it was an urban map in World of Tanks, and she was in her Death Star, the FV215B183, big old 183mm gun, and she had an enemy tank cornered, and she was about to finish it, and she aimed the gun at it. It was literally point blank range, couldn't miss. I don't know how many of you can remember exactly what moment this was. Couldn't miss, but didn't notice that she had the barrel of the gun sticking through a concrete fence post, and as I'm sure you're aware when you play World of Tanks, you can actually swing the barrel of the gun through solid objects because it's not actually part of the hitbox. The gun barrel actually only extends a very short distance from the mantlet on the front of the turret, which meant that when she pulled the trigger, the shot didn't hit the enemy tank, it hit the fence post right in front of her, and it's a 183mm high explosive shell going off 3 feet in front of her tank, and she killed herself and did no damage to the enemy tank. And I fell over laughing, and this was of course being streamed live. So many people clipped it, and I started singing, "You're shit, and you know you are, you're shit." And that one clip got so many views, it was so funny. And she started almost crying, like, "Jingaroo, I hate you." It was such a funny clip. So yeah, that's probably. Oh, it was on the Stalingrad map. It's just edited to say, yeah, that was the map. I remember it. I mean, can't remember the names of a lot of the maps in World of Tanks. Some of these maps aren't in the rotation anymore. But yeah, it was an infamous moment. Anyway, moving on to the next question. Just checking how we're doing for time. Oh, we're still loads of time to go. From Soggy Sow, he says, what do you think of the World of Tanks 2.0 update? I haven't really had time to look into it that much. The game doesn't look any different. They've made some changes to some of the maps. Visually, the biggest update was when they went from the old graphics engine to the new graphics engine. They haven't actually changed the graphics or anything, but what they have done is they've rebalanced. I mean, aside from introducing a whole bunch of Tier 11 tanks. Oh, and by the way, Aurorix 78 has been testing out the new German Tier 11 light tank. And it is, yes, I've seen it, and the video is coming. But aside from introducing because they're basically doing what World of Warships has done with their super ships, except they're being a bit more honest and calling them Tier 11 rather than super ships or super tanks. And they've also rebalanced every tank in the game. So I'm waiting for the results to come in, basically, because you know what Wargaming are like when they introduce one new tank. And they can't balance it right. And if they have to rebalance every existing tank of the hundreds of tanks that are in the game, there's no way they're getting it right. There's gonna be issues. So I'm just waiting for the news to come in on that. Also, he says that he considered going back and making model painting videos again. I keep considering it, and it's one of those things that I just never get around to doing. Although, speaking of models, my neighbour, whose name is Paul, turned up the other day with a gift for me, and it was really, really bizarre. It was a Lego rabbit kit. Or it was a Lego creation thing that I've never heard of, and you could make 3 different animals with it. So you could make a rabbit, or I think it was a llama, or a seal. And it's the sort of kit that's designed for a couple of you to sit around and build together. So it's a thing that you'd build with your kids. But here's the thing. He presented me with this, and I thought, okay, weird. And then he showed me on his phone, somebody has figured out how to make an alien face hugger with this Lego rabbit kit. And he sent me the instructions on WhatsApp for the video of how to actually use that kit to make a face hugger. So I'm definitely doing that. That's going to be amazing. Anyway, moving on. Next question. From Optical Lizard. Good morning. Will you play GTA 6, a potentially M-rated game? Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. I've played all of the Grand Theft Auto games, although I never did videos on them. They're even worse than Cyberpunk, because you can just keep going forever. I included a lot of the side quests in my Cyberpunk video playthrough, and I don't know how many videos. I could look now. But it was at least 40 videos in my Cyberpunk 2077 video playlist, and that was skipping out probably 40% of the content just to get the story. And I still ended up doing 40 videos. Grand Theft Auto is even worse. You could basically never stop doing videos on it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But whether or not, I don't know, I might actually do a video series on it. You see, previously the thing was, I think one of the reasons why I never actually did previous videos on the Grand Theft Auto series was because I was playing them on console, on the PlayStation. And driving wasn't that bad. It was actually quite comfortable driving with a controller, but shooting was a nightmare for me. On PC, however, not an issue. So might actually not look completely crap, my gameplay, for Grand Theft Auto 6. And the game does look great. And I've certainly got the PC that can run it. So yeah, maybe. We'll see how it goes. But I'm definitely going to be playing it. Depending on how much it costs. If it's $100... See, I don't want to encourage them, because once you set the precedent, suddenly they all start charging $100. So we'll see how it goes. But I would like to play it, definitely, yes. Next question from Sir Blake. I think they're... is that a... No, he's actually spelled... Okay, he says Anno 117, Pax... Oh, right. I was looking at that thinking, is that a typo? Because... normally, there's... How can I put this? The year didn't look right. It looked like there was a number missing, but its subtitle is Pax Romana, so yeah, it will be in the year 117. And he says it comes out on the 13th of November this year. The demo for the game, demo's available. I'll have to have a look for that. He says, are you going to play it? He says, yes, I know it's Ubisoft. Have you ever played a game from the Anno series? And because this one is set during the Roman Empire, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? I think I've played, there was one set in the future. I think I played that. And then there was one set during the Age of Sail, like the 1500s. The kind of era when the Portuguese had one of the richest empires in the world. I think I remember playing that. And I don't remember an awful lot about them, except that they were okay. They didn't particularly light my fire, but I didn't dislike them either. Although I like the idea of playing one set during the Roman era. How often do you think about the Roman Empire, he says. As I'm sure you're all aware, I'm a bit of a student of history. And what was the book? It was called Rubicon. Fantastic book on Roman history. Do you remember World of Tanks had an update called Rubicon? That didn't go down particularly well because they tried to change a whole bunch of stuff too fast and too quickly and didn't get it right, and so they launched it, and then they kind of ended up rolling back a lot of the stuff. The reason the word Rubicon actually comes from, it's a river in northern Italy. No Roman general was allowed to bring his army into Rome in order to prevent a Roman general from seizing power. And when Caesar was coming back from his Gaulish expeditions, if he crossed this river, the Rubicon is known as the point of no return. That's what the word Rubicon means if it's used in English. This is the Rubicon. If you go beyond this, there's no going back. And that was named because Caesar had to make the decision whether or not he was going to take his army over this river, the Rubicon, because if he did, he was committed to civil war. And that's where the whole thing comes from. And the book deals with Roman history from that moment to the end of the empire. Fantastic book. And I've completely forgotten where I was going with this. Oh yeah, he was talking about Anno 117 Pax Romana. It's the kind of thing that, because I do have a particular interest in Roman history, like Total War Rome, I thought was a fantastic game. And it was a fantastic game, but I probably thought it was better than it was purely because it was Rome. I had that kind of, like, I'm watching Alien Earth at the moment. The latest episode I loved, by the way, but again, no spoilers. And I recognise that it's not perfect and it does have issues, but it's Alien. So I'm probably prepared to forgive more than somebody who wasn't as invested in Alien would. And I realise, that's a weakness that I have. I am biased with any Alien product because it's Alien and I love Alien, so I'll let it get away with stuff that other people might not. And I'm probably the same with anything related to the Roman Empire. But this is another... Thank you for the heads up. When's it coming out? 13th of November. Not long. So that's another one to add to the list. Oh, he says another upcoming game you might be interested in, Hell Let Loose Vietnam. Ooh, Hell Let Loose is a great game. And in Vietnam, that's going to be interesting. Coming next year, apparently. All right, thanks for the heads up. Next question comes from the Steel Drummer. He says, good morning, oh mighty gnome overlord. I know you stopped playing Airsoft a while ago, but when you were still active, what was your favourite Airsoft gun to play with, and would you return to playing it if the miners innovated a way to shape salt into BB-shaped balls so you could literally shower people with your salt? I'm extremely unlikely to go back to playing Airsoft because I'm old and fat and I've had a heart attack and I have diabetes. So... a couple of years back, I went back and thought, you know what, I'll be a sniper, because, just lie in a bush with a bolt-action BB gun. It'll be fine. But it was just too hot and sweaty. Layered up with a ghillie suit and all that shit, even lying still and not running around, my eye protection would just mist up and I couldn't see anything. So, no, probably not going to go back to playing. But my favourite Airsoft gun was a special gun, a custom gun made by the Combat South, he's died now, Steve, the Combat South armourer, and co-owner of the site that I played at. He made this custom MC51. So if you don't know what an MC51 is, there's only a couple were ever made. It was basically a chopped down G3 battle rifle, the German G3. Well, technically, not the G3, I can't remember the name. It's the rifle that Val Kilmer used during the in Heat. It was the one that he used when he was providing Overwatch at the what's the name? A movie theatre where drive-in movie theatre in Heat where they were doing an exchange. Anyway, it was a chopped down version of that, developed for the SAS. And if you can imagine, a G3 battle rifle with an extremely short barrel blasting away on full auto. It was basically an automatic flashbang dispenser, 7.62mm NATO with like a 10-inch barrel. It was just absurdly loud and violent. And the SAS used it not very long because it was just completely impractical, but ridiculously fun. Well, he did an airsoft version of that, and it is the most reliable airsoft gun I have ever had. Generally speaking, any of Tokyo Marui's G3s were phenomenally reliable with an amazing hop-up system, and the custom MC51 that he did it just never went wrong, and it was accurate as anything, and it's easily the best airsoft gun I ever had. Next question from Dr. Fury von Scooper. Fantastic name, by the way. Extremely well done. He says, Dear Mighty Overlord Jingles, first time here. Welcome. Have you ever played the board games Axis and Allies or Memoir 44? If so, did you like it? If not, have you heard of them? Kind regards from Belgium. I haven't played them. I've heard of Axis and Allies. I haven't heard of Memoir 44. I do play board games, but they tend to be science fiction or horror board games. So upstairs, I've got Alien, Fate of the Nostromo. I've got Another Glorious Day in the Cool. Again, Aliens, and its expansions. I've got The House on Haunted Hill. And I've got a couple of others. The original 1970s version of Dune, as well as the modern remake, sort of slimmed down version of it. The original version of Dune is an amazing game. It will take you like 6 to 7 hours to play it, and you really do need a minimum of 4 people, which is why I don't get to play it very often. I've got all kinds of board games upstairs. I haven't actually played any for a while, although I've got some guests coming up from Bristol this weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend, because right now is this weekend, because I'm recording this on Sunday. And we're probably going to have a go of Alien Fate of the Nostromo, because the game takes about an hour to play, and it's just great for when you've got casual guests over. But I don't really play war board games, but I have heard of Axis and Allies, so yeah, there you go. Yes, I do play board games, but not the ones that you mentioned. Sorry about that. Next one from Succulent Relic. Good morning, Jingles. Rarest of rear admirals. You have been given the dubious honour of defending Earth from the fearsome snurgly hordes who are here to steal all of our waifus and put onions in everything. This guy knows me well. My question to you is, what ship from popular sci-fi would you command? Ooh. I know everybody's expecting me to say the Enterprise or the Voyager or something like that. And yeah. It would have to be a Star Destroyer, an Imperial Star Destroyer from Star Wars, because they've done the science, and a single blast from a single turbo laser turret on a Star Destroyer would vaporise the Enterprise D in one shot. So yeah, it would have to be an Imperial Star Destroyer, because they just look mean as hell. And it's the first science fiction ship I can remember recognising. Because Star Wars came out when I was 7 years old, and I went to see it at the cinema. And of course, you got that opening shot with the CRV-90 blockade runner, the Tantive 4, trying to outrun the ISD Devastator, Vader's command ship. And then you've got that shot of the Star Destroyer coming in, and it just keeps coming, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. And it just perfectly framed the whole desperate nature of the rebellion. Like, how can something that insignificant possibly stand up and defeat something that massive? Rebel versus Empire, and that Star Destroyer, wow. So yeah, Imperial Star Destroyer, it would have to be. Next question from La French Baguette. Oh, and I'll have to he's also included an image, so I'm going to save that, and hopefully I'll remember, and we can actually stick this in the video. Good morning, dear almighty Overlord Jingles. I've been building the 1/350th scale HMS Sheffield, the Type 42 lost during the Falklands conflict. Picture attached. Yeah, I'll pop that up on screen right now. And I was wondering, has the conflict influenced you in any way of joining the Navy? And if you yourself met any veterans of the conflict while you were serving? Well, yeah, it was 1982 was the Falklands. I was 12 years old. And, of course, it was all over the news. Every day. Every day, the Ministry of Defence would do a press conference announcing what had happened during the day. Any losses that had been suffered, any gains that had been made. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he became, nationally famous as the MOD spokesman on the evening news every day. And I had lots of relatives who were in the army. I had one relative who was in the Air Force. I didn't have any relatives who were in the Navy. So as a very young boy, I knew about the Army. I knew a little bit about the Air Force, but I didn't really know shit about the Navy until the Falklands War happened. So, yeah, it definitely influenced my decision to join the Navy. And I did meet a couple of veterans of the conflict. When I was working in the Commodore's registry at HMS Nelson, the petty officer writer in there had been on board HMS Coventry, which was the other Type 42 destroyer, along with HMS Sheffield, that was lost. So when he was a very, very young boy writer, yeah, he was on board a ship that got sunk, and it fucked him up. He was a raging alcoholic. So yeah. Also, 20 years. Oh, he's just edited the question to say the mod spokesman might be Ian MacDonald. He might be, actually. That name does sound familiar. But also, 20 years after, so this would have been in 2002, again, I was on board HMS Newcastle, and we were South Atlantic guard ship, or Falkland Islands guard ship. We used to have like a Falkland Islands guard ship and a South Atlantic patrol ship. But then we started getting rid of all of our ships, and we suddenly didn't have enough ships to do all of the jobs that needed doing. So we said, that's no problem. We just have one ship do everything. So they combined Atlantic Patrol with Falkland Islands guard ship. I don't know how you're supposed to defend the Falklands when you're on a ship off the coast of Uruguay, but whatever. Anyway, politics. But we were down the Falklands for the 20th anniversary. And obviously there was a lot of memorials and things going on to commemorate the war. And on board HMS Newcastle, one of the leading seaman sonar operators was called Henry Cooper. And he'd been on board HMS Arrow during the Falklands. And HMS Arrow was hit by an Argentine Skyhawk, I think 500-pound bomb, and went up. And he lost a lot of friends when he was down there. And on top of Campito Hill, so in Falkland Sound, San Carlos Water, on the side where the landings took place, on the opposite side where there was some kind of cattle station where the medical facilities were set up, which were commanded by Surgeon Commander Rick Jolly, who is, I hope, still alive. I'm not sure. But he wrote Jack Speak, the Manual of Naval Slang, with illustrations by a legendary artist, Tug Wilson. Fantastic book, which I highly recommend anybody to get their hands on. But on that side, up at the top of, I wouldn't call it a mountain, but up at the top of Campito Hill was the Type 21 Memorial. And so, as well as taking part in all the commemorative displays and putting on guards of honour and all that sort of stuff, because we were Navy and we were down there, and we were moored in San Carlos Water, a bunch of volunteers went up to the top of Campito Hill, and Henry went up with us because he'd been on board HMS Arrow, and at the top of the hill was the Type 21 Frigate Memorial, which doesn't get visited very often, as you can imagine. It's on the top of a hill in a place where very few people live, on a windswept, rainy mountain, and we cleaned up the memorial, and we had a brief service up there, and got a bit emotional for Henry. So, yeah, I have met a couple of veterans. Actually, also while we were down there, we got given a battlefield tour. Down the Falklands, they have what they call the RIC, the Resident Infantry Company. And there's a single company from various different infantry battalions who are down there to provide security. You have to understand the thing about the Falklands is it's not fully defended against attack. It has enough defences to buy 48 hours of time. And there's a huge stockpile of equipment there because it takes 48 hours to get the defenders over the air bridge from the UK to the Falklands. to use all of the equipment there to fight off any invasion. So only one infantry company, just enough people to buy time to get the actual defensive force down to the Falklands from the UK. And at the time, the resident infantry company was 3 para, so the 3rd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. And the battlefield tour was being given during the was over the Battle of Goose Green. And the guy giving the lecture and taking us on the tour was called Major Tom Abel of the 3rd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. And he was talking about what happened. It was when Colonel H. Jones was actually shot leading the attack and killed. And the reason this was such a memorable battlefield tour was because Major Tom Abel of 3 Para in 2002 down the Falklands, given this battlefield tour and lecture, 20 years earlier had been Corporal Tom Abel of the 2nd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, and he was there. On the ground that we were standing, he was there, watching it all happen, and he personally saw Colonel Jones get shot. And on the ridge where they'd positioned their general purpose machine guns to give them some covering fire to try to get up over in those Argentine trenches. 20 years later, mind you, you could just kick the ground and shell casings and 7.62mm belt link would just fly in all directions. Still there, 20 years later. So, yeah, that was pretty impressive. I've forgotten what the question was. Oh, all of this, because he's building a scale model of HMS Sheffield. Anyway, thank you for the question. Next one from AAMC Woods M6. Have you ever read the Tom Clancy book Red Storm Rising? And if so, what did you think of it? Oh, have I read that? Oh, yes. That was actually the first Tom Clancy book I ever read. I can't remember who recommended it to me, but holy shit, it's good. The thing about Tom Clancy, he's not actually that good a writer. His characters are kind of basic, but his knowledge of military systems, equipment, and procedures is second to none. He's a bit like Isaac Asimov, the science fiction writer. Right, Isaac Asimov was a terrible writer. He couldn't write for shit. But his ideas were amazing. And that made up for it. You know, the concepts that he came up with were like mind-blowing, even if they weren't written very well. And Tom Clancy's kind of like that. Anything where it's inter-character relations, anything between people is kind of a bit weak. But everything else is amazing. I highly recommend people have... If you go onto YouTube, you can find videos where people have used, I think it's DCS World, to basically simulate the entire Red Storm Rising book. And they've used, and I think it's Tom Clancy himself actually did the audiobook narration, and they've used Tom Clancy's audiobook narration to provide the commentary while using DCS World to provide the visuals. And it's basically like watching a Red Storm Rising movie. It's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend you check them out if you can find them. They shouldn't be too difficult to find. Oh, holy shit. It's a Rorix 78 who says, no question, did you hear Flambass's wife went into labour a few hours ago? I had not. That's amazing. So I'm sure you all know Flambass. I had him over here about a year and a half ago. He was visiting the UK. I offered to put him and his, at the time, girlfriend up here at my home while they were visiting Portsmouth. She was lovely. Flambass is amazing. And then shortly afterwards, they got married. And I didn't even know she was pregnant. Flambass is going to be a dad. Oh, that's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. Holy shit. Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to have to send him I mean, he's probably being flooded with messages right now, but I'll add another one to the list for him to go through. I appreciate how he's going to feel, by the way, because when I had my heart attack and I was in hospital, my phone was just flooded with messages from everybody saying, I hope you're okay, and so on and so on. And you cannot possibly reply to all, well, you could reply to all of them, but be there all day. And eventually you just run out of things to say, so you probably end up copying and pasting your reply and just changing the names. But he's going to be in that situation now, so yeah, hope he enjoys it. And obviously I hope everything goes well for his wife and the baby's healthy. Oh, wow. That's great news. Thank you, Aurorik. Also, I don't know if you've been here since the start, because I never actually replied to your email, but I have watched your Tier 11 light tank replays. And yeah, let me just say, he says it's fun, but it's not competitive. So don't worry, there's videos coming. We'll explain in more detail exactly what it means. And it's got a very, very silly name, the new German Tier 11 light tank. But he's here with the news that Flambaster's wife just went into labour, so that's amazing news. And I think on that bombshell, that might have to be where we end this particular episode of Mingles with Jingles. So apologies to anybody who didn't get their question answered, but there's only so many hours in the day. And when people start asking me about the Falklands, that's like 15 minutes for one answer. But I hope you all enjoyed it. If you're watching this as Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, then I guess, well, first of all, to everybody who turned up in person to actually post their questions and attend the live Q&A, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you're watching this as Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, hope you enjoyed it. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.